Hope everyone's having your best day ever. We're going to be talking about cost versus price on today's coaching call. So we'll hear some dings as people hop in here. There we go. Welcome. Make sure if you're joining us for the first time, you know that that we're streaming. So any questions you ask will be, make sure they're appropriate for live streaming. Want to make sure that's good. Let's just make sure we're streaming well. Price versus cost is our conversation today. Just make sure we're streaming here. All right, so I recently have been in conversations, and people ask, not existing patients, they don't always ask if we always take x-rays. That's not really the case. What we find though is that people are they have access to other options. And so sometimes somebody had asked me one time, hey, are you do you take x-rays on everybody? And I said, yeah, I do. And they said, well, doesn't that get expensive? Like, don't patients have to pay for their x-rays? And I said, that's a really, really good point. So I put together this blog post with some x-rays, and I'm going to actually share that with you. So let me pull this up here. We're having all kinds of fun with technology today. It's great. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here. So on our blog post on our website, the question was, do you x-ray everybody? All right, so can you see, you should be able to see on my screen here that there's an area in this red circle where this lady's neck was really, really unstable. Now, we don't forcefully adjust anybody here, but if we had not done these x-rays, or if somebody had not done these x-rays and then she were to receive a forceful adjustment, she could have had permanent damage at her spinal cord where that's unstable. Now you think, oh my gosh, that's so scary. Well, it's only scary if we're not going to look for it. We know to look for that. And so that won't be an issue for her, but certainly forceful adjustments would be out of the question for her. This is a young guy, he's 12 years old, and he's got bone on bone in his neck. Do you think that's important to know? Again, here we don't do the forceful adjustments, but do you think that's important to know before any work is done? Or what about his low back? He's got almost an 11 millimeter space here. This red line and this red line should line up with each other. In fact, let me point it out here. Okay, this red line is almost 11 millimeters in front of this red line. And so this is very unstable. Do you think it's important as his doctor for me to tell him no football, no rugby, no lacrosse, no wrestling, no contact sports where you could take a shoulder here in the low back, you could be paralyzed from the waist down? So we think that that's very, very important. The question becomes, is the price more important or the cost more important? And those are very, very different conversations. So what I mean by that is the price is a dollar amount somebody will pay for your product or service. 100, 200, 500, 1,000, whatever the price is. But that is what somebody will pay. That's the dollar amount somebody will pay for your product or service. Cost is what is it all things considered, time, energy, money. And so there's opportunity cost, there's risk cost and cost. And so here what I mean, those x-rays that we took had a price tag of $328. Now somebody could say, well, I don't want to have the $328 bill, so I'm not going to get the x-rays. I'm not going to do that. Now, that is a deal breaker for us because first, do no harm. We're not going to do anything that's going to potentially cause damage. If we're going to do something, we're going to do it well. Now, you don't have to agree with that. You don't have to support that. But if we are going to see if we can help you, we're going to image and take a look and make sure that it's safe to do so. And we look at the difference between price and cost, because what is it really going to cost you if we take the x-rays? Well, the price and the cost of the x-rays are the same. But the price versus cost of not taking the x-rays are drastically different. And here's what I mean. The price of not taking x-rays is actually a $328 savings. So you would save $328 if we didn't take those x-rays on you. But what would that ultimately cost you? And it may cost you $0, which means you're ahead. Or it may cost you not taking x-rays. It could have a cost of you not getting answers. Well, I don't know what the dollar amount is for you getting answers, but there's a value there. So not having that value means you're experiencing a cost. And so what is the cost of you not getting answers to your problem? We had a guy in today who is so dizzy and has so many balance issues. I had to literally catch him in a bear hug twice, or he would have fallen over. So if he hadn't done the assessment and hadn't gotten the answers, he wouldn't be getting answers that we can help him, and we can get him back on the golf course, and we can help him avoid spine surgery. So there's a cost that you would miss out on that. There would be an opportunity cost. You don't have the opportunity to get your answers. There's also a possibility, there's an opportunity cost to you not getting better. There are answers, then there's improvement and results. You miss out on that. And in addition to all of those costs, if somebody had adjusted that lady forcefully in her neck and hadn't looked to see that that was unstable and unsafe and contraindicated, which means not allowed, she could be paralyzed. Well, my gosh, what would that cost? There's no dollar amount in the world that could quantify somebody being paralyzed from the neck down. Now, I'm not a big fan of, inducing fear, so this is not intended for that. It's actually intended to inspire and offer hope that if systems are followed properly, really great things can happen. And of course, we can avoid the risk of negative things happening if we do a good job. The other factor is, what if somebody makes $100,000 a year? Or let's be conservative. What if somebody makes $30,000 a year with their work, and they've lost the function of their arms and legs and have to be in a wheelchair, and they can no longer do their work? And what if they had 20 years left of employment? Okay. Well, somebody being paralyzed to save $328 would be costing them all of their working years, all of their money, all of the growth that money could have. So if we just take 30,000 times 20, that's $600,000. $600,000 is what that would cost if something happened where there was damage. And so we always encourage people, especially with your health, do not pick the cheapest price. You have to look at what is the overall cost going to be. And that is the point that I really, really insist on driving home. It doesn't matter what the price is. What matters is what it costs. Rabbi Daniel Lapin wrote a book called Thou Shalt Prosper. And in his book, he talked about how money is actually spiritual. Watch what I mean by this. If I have money in my pocket, okay, so I'm going to take out some money like Dave Ramsey would. Now, Dave Ramsey would get out a stack of hundreds. I don't want to send the wrong message here. But if I take money out of my pocket and I go give this to somebody in exchange for something else, I have now given $100 in exchange for something else. And you could say, well, that's not spiritual at all. That's physical. This is something you can touch. You could rip it, you know. So no, this is physical. This is just a piece of paper. This is not money. This is representative of 100 United States dollars, which has a certain buying power. And what he means by this being spiritual is, what if I went to somebody's house today and I knocked on the door and I said, hey, I noticed that you have a table and chairs out at your curb. What's going on? And they said, well, we're getting rid of that. And I said, wow, that's interesting. Why are you getting rid of it? They said, well, we're donating it to Salvation Army. We don't use it anymore. They're going to come pick it up. And I said, well, do you have to pay for that? And they say, yeah, it's only costing us $50 to do that. I say, okay. Well, what if instead of you paying $50 for that, what if I give you $100 and then I take it? Well, sure, you can do that. So now they're not paying their $50, okay? And they got my $100. So now they're up $150. I don't know if that's backwards or not. I'm down $100, but they're up $150. Well, am I really down $100? Because I had just gone to the store and I found that a table and chairs that I was going to buy for somebody's wedding for $1,000. So they're up 150, even though I only gave them 100, they're up 150, and I'm up 900 because I didn't have to spend 1,000. So that money didn't necessarily change hands. That's what he means by it's spiritual, because there are times it can be non-physical. Money is not physical. The representation of it is, but actual money, buying power, exchange power is not physical. And so then I go to the hardware store and I have to buy some material. So I go to the family-owned hardware store. I go to Stadium Hardware and I spend $5 and I buy new hardware. So I'm in $105. That family's up $150. I'm up $895 now because I didn't buy the $1,000 table. I bought it for $100 and then I put $5 into it. And so now the hardware store is up $5. And then I give it to this family member for their wedding, and they have a beautiful table and they have happiness, and it cost me $105. I only exchanged $105 physically, but I came out ahead $895 plus the value of seeing my family members happy, my family members using the table and chairs. The hardware store is up $5. The family that I gave the $100 bill to is up $150 because they didn't have to pay Salvation Army, and Salvation Army could go do something else and earn more money there. So do you see how far up we are just by allowing $105 to flow back and forth and create stuff? So price is very different than cost. The price of that table for me was $105. The cost of it was a negative cost, meaning I came out ahead by $895 plus the $150 that the family is up. So the actual cost was a value add of $895 plus $150 plus $5 to the store. So by me moving $105, the cost of it was $1,050 up. That's amazing. I think that's really cool. So before you pick the cheapest option, ask yourself, what is it going to cost? With your health, there's no greater investment you can make. Your health is your wealth. Steve Jobs died with billions of dollars, and how good did that do him without his health? So don't pick the cheapest option. Pick the option that's going to give you the greatest gain long-term. Remember, if you set weekly life coaching calls ago, I talked about 85% less prescription drug use for chiropractic patients over a 7-year period. If you're saving 85% over of 2.6 trillion, $2.6 trillion, 85% of that times 7. That's how much can be saved if people are under chiropractic care. All right, that's what I have for you. I will open the floor up for questions. So if you have questions, please on the on your participant screen, you can raise your hand. And if you have, raise your digital hand, because let's see, I'll do this so I can see everybody. There we go. Go ahead and raise your digital hand if you have a question, or your physical hand if your camera's on, and I can answer any questions you have. And if you don't have any, that will be good. Next week, oh yes, Miss Gay, go right ahead. You can unmute yourself. We can't hear you just yet. Let me unmute you. There we go.
Okay, I was just doing it too. I don't necessarily have a question, but I want you to know I do not take any prescriptions on an ongoing basis. I do use a lot of vitamins.
Okay.
And they are tested by another doctor that I'm seeing. But the only time I take anything is when I see the dentist. Because I have bionic hips and a bionic wrist, I do have to take a prescription when I go to the dentist. Just
Okay.
an antibiotic, but it's just a temporary thing for that one visit, and then there are no more prescriptions. And I
Good for
do
you.
take chiropractic for a great deal of that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean the notion that because we're aging, we need chemicals in our body. It's not a correct notion. I contributed to a devotional. An author asked me if I would contribute to the physical health side of that, and that's one of the things I talked about. Is either we're fundamentally flawed and we will not function without chemicals and surgeries and freezing and burning things, or we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, yes, there are times things break down, but just like a garden, that is being tended to, we should have better function the more we work on it. Now, if we're not going to work on it, then of course we're going to have trouble. But the concept, that philosophy really determines a lot. And yeah, so major kudos. I've heard it said that your philosophy determines your prosperity. Now, I don't think prosperity just means money, but what you believe will lead to or detract from your prosperity. If we look at prosperity as a full picture of physical, emotional, mental, intellectual, vocational, avocational, relational, all of these different accounts that we can have, you are extremely wealthy if you can have relationships, if you're not drugged out, if you're not zombied out, if you're not in bed sleeping all day. So your philosophy that, hey, that stuff's not good or bad. I just believe that God's creation doesn't necessarily need help. It just needs no interference. So you've spent your life in a non-interference model, which keeps you out of the intervention model, which is costly. It robs you of time, energy, money, resources. I'm glad it's there when we need it, but your philosophy has allowed you to prosper in that way. So kudos on that. That's great.
In addition, if you speak what you want it to be, that is a positive thing rather than speaking the negatives. Well, I've got this wrong and that wrong. Don't do that. Talk about the things that are right. And
Absolutely.
that helps your mental attitude also. And just to remind you, I am a great grandmother, and number 18 is due in December. So I've been around for a while. I'm not a spring chicken.
Very good. Well, thank you for joining today. Cost versus price. There's the price is only a factor. The cost, what it will cost you, good or bad, is what we really want to look at when we're talking about your health. Keep up the great work. Next week, I'm going to be doing my 1 month check-in on my wearable device that I've been wearing that's doing the frequency work. Really, really fascinating. So if you're interested in that, I will be going over that next Thursday on the weekly live coaching call. I can't wait to share that with you. Have an awesome day. We'll see you soon.
Have a blessed day.